Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and I am bringing you a band-endorsed but fan-based podcast, all designed to tantalize your audio taste buds with the offerings of Uriah Heep and everything that they recorded in the studio from day one through the album that's not even out yet. But it will be at some point. We're all looking very, very forward to it. Today, we've got a song called Trail of Diamonds. Very intriguing title. You could go so many different directions with that. And we're going to find out what direction they went in just a little bit. But first, it's Monday, guys. I hope you had a good weekend. I hope you're refreshed and ready to go take on a whole new week. And we've got some things that can help you do that. Besides the podcast and the albums, we've got a couple of box sets that BMG is rocking the world with. There is the Everyday Rocks box set, 7 picture discs, 7 t-shirts, a wall calendar, inspiring cards from lyrics. Great, great stuff. And if that isn't enough for you, we have the Choices box set, which is lists of songs on CDs made by the band members themselves. This is our way of saying, here's what you should check out if you really want to get the essence of Uriah Heep from my perspective. Very, very cool thing. That is an extension of the 50th anniversary box set. If you weren't able to get the 50th anniversary box set, which is now out of print, you can pick up the Choices box set and at least get that portion of it, plus new ones that they have added since the box set was done with a couple of the more current members. So very, very cool stuff. And now I want to take a moment and talk to you about one of the most important things that you could do with your time, which is helping Uriah Heep get inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Ohio. All you have to do is go to facebook.com/HeepRockHall, sign the petition. That's it. You don't have to pay any money. You can give to the cause if you like, but it's not required to get your vote in, which is very, very important. Just put in a couple of clicks and you're good to go. You could also go to the website for the podcast, scotthaskin.com, click on the Uriah Heep podcast link, and the link to the Hall of Fame sign-up sheet is right towards the top of the page. It's colored so that you will pop out and catch your eye. But please, if you haven't already, please make sure that you do sign that petition. Very, very important to help these guys get where they should be recognized. I mean, geez. They're just recognizing some bands now that have been pioneers in the industry. It's ridiculous how that process works, but we want to make it happen for these guys. They deserve it. They should be there. But, you know, it's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is its own political dungeon, I suppose. So check that out when you can. If you guys are driving around, just make a mental note, leave yourself a voicemail, do something. Send yourself, you know what I do a lot of times when I need to remember things and I'm out and about and can't just take care of them right away is I'll send myself a voice email, especially if I'm driving. That's probably the least dangerous thing that you can do, either or like a voice text. So I just pull up the text thing, hit me, and then leave that message. Or I'll call myself and leave a voicemail message, whichever is more convenient. Most important thing is be safe. The second most important thing is get your vote in. Very, very important stuff. Both of them are. I want to take a minute and thank my patrons who have been wonderful and donating money to the show every month. So kind and generous of them, trading for the content that they get, which they would get anyway. So it's totally gratuitous on their part. I love the fact that I am doing something that people want to give money to. That's awesome. At the $5 Easy Living tier, of course, we have Kenny Wymore and Brad D. At the $3 The Wizard tier, we have Peter Voss, Goran Eriksson, Frank Thielgaard Mortensen, and William Rose. And at the $1 Traveler in Time tier, we have the one who is like hitting the 7th lock in Die Hard, Airtight Gravesite. Thank you guys all very, very much. It really does mean a lot to me that you want to contribute to the show, that you want to help with the costs and all that. Very, very helpful to me. And thank you. Also, if you guys would like to get on the Patreon, you can do that. There is a link at the bottom of the website, scotthaskin.com. Go to the bottom, click on the Patreon link. It will take you to that page. You can also do a donation through PayPal. That link is right next to the Patreon link, or right under it, I think, at the bottom of the page. So there are a couple other people that, of course, I want to thank for their work that they do that helps me or have done that helps me. First and foremost, my distributor Podbean, who is the one that sends this podcast out to all the places that you can listen to it, except for one or two that I no, actually, well, they send the podcast out and then I send the links out, some of them manually. Also to my graphic artist, Scott Lazinski, who did an amazing job on the artwork for the show. Audionamics. I will not do a podcast without Instant Dialogue Cleaner. As far as I'm concerned, the greatest tool in the podcaster belt. And last but not least, my dear friend, Dave White, the director of social media for Uriah Heep, who helps greatly with spreading the word about the podcast. He also runs the website and the Twitter account and the Facebook account. He is a hell of a guy and really good at it. And he's got so many pages on that website to check out. He also runs mick-box.net for all things Mick Box. So great places to go peruse, spend your time, enjoy some of what Dave has put up there for you. And, last but not least, my brothers of the Deep Dive Podcast Network. So many podcasts now. We've got the Deep Purple podcast. We've got Skinner Reconsidered. We've got T-Bone's Prime Cuts on the other side. We've got Sabbath's Bloody Podcast. We have In the Lap of the Pods. We have Hawk Binge, Maiden A to Z Pod, Diary of the Madmen, the Ultimate Ozzy Podcast. And we have, universally speaking, the Red Hot Chili Peppers podcast. And of course, the Metal Gods podcast, that covering the life of Judas Priest, the band. I don't think he's a real person. And of course, I want to give a shout out to my buddy Brandon over at Metallicast, who runs a great Metallica podcast, and my friend Allegra over at gottahearemall.com for her well-researched information on the touring lives of Deep Purple and Deep Purple and Uriah Heep. I almost said that, and then I said it. Deep Purple and Emerson, Lake and Palmer / Emerson, Lake and Powell. Great stuff over there to check out. Wonderfully well-researched stuff. Very cool. And then, of course, the band's manager, Ace, has a show on YouTube called Ace the Music Man, and on Stitcher it is called Ace on Music. Go check it out. Lots of cool things about the industry, about how things work that you may or may not know. There were some things I didn't know. I didn't know what a non-fungible token was until I started listening to that show. So lots of good stuff. So check all of that out. Thank you guys very much, everyone who has shared the show, who has let people know about it, all that good stuff. It really makes all the difference. I can't really do what I do to the degree I want to do it if people don't know about it. The more people that are listening, the better. So thank you guys for helping share the podcast. Now it's time to get into our song. It is called Trail of Diamonds, and here it is by Uriah Heep. This is a really intriguing intro, isn't it? I love the drums at the beginning. It kind of sounds almost like, like an Indian rhythm. Just somebody sitting there, banging on a tom-tom. But it's got a real mystery at that tempo, I think. And I could swear I hear a breath in there a couple of times as well. I could be wrong, but it really feels like there's one in there. Then the organ kicks in and just that nice little ping, what is that? It's like a beacon. It's like just something to draw your attention for a moment. It's really interesting. Definitely not anything typically Heep that we're hearing right now. Although once the organ comes in, you kind of feel like, okay, now I'm starting to get into a little bit familiar ground, but this is definitely an interesting opening so far.
Stood still, and in my crystal vision I saw a shadow on a hill, and then she started walking into the bright blue sky. I tried to follow closely, and I knew the reason why. Then the dream, it turned so slowly, like a dream within a dream. She appeared to me so ghostly, and she kissed me with a smile.
This is a great song, and having it in the middle of just such a heavy album is really nice too. We've got really the addition of the guitar and the vocals at the same time just brings about another dimension. I kind of like that instead of adding, going from the drums and then adding the ping and the organ, then adding guitar, then adding bass, then adding vocals. Like I really like that they just kind of brought it up a double notch there and put the guitar and vocals together. It's already a 6.5-minute song. So that could have certainly extended it closer to 7 if they had done that. So I like that. But man, I love Bernie's voice on this. This is some of the best stuff I've heard him do so far. The pitches, the power, the emotion. I mean, this is really a great showcase of how good Bernie really is. And you can certainly tell he's got the power. That's never a question, but he can really hit ranges now, that you're hearing him hit in this song. We just don't hear from him a lot. So it's really interesting, but it's such a beautiful progression. And for a song like this to come out and really have an impact, the vocals have to deliver. When you've got just that gentle organ that's setting the bed for something that's going to be emotional, the vocals have to deliver. And Bernie is nailing it on every single note. I absolutely love his voice on this song.
Saw her falling into the strangest town, our distance never changing as the walls are crashing down. Then the dream would move so slowly, like a dream within a dream. Then she turned to me so ghostly, and she kissed me with a smile.
I'm hearing a little bit of a pad or a synthesizer in there. It's really subtle, but I'm hearing it in spots along with the organ. Really love what the organ's playing, though. That there's some really great stuff backing up the emotion of the vocals. And then the thing that, it's so important is kind of the glue that keeps it together are just these gentle strums from Mick. Really, really just nice and subtle, but they're there, not anything powerful, just, real campfire type song. That just is a bunch of people kind of sitting around telling a story. Kind of think about a song like Tales or Blind Eye, where, you just get that feeling that they're just kind of sitting around watching the sun come up and telling stories. This has got an emotional level that everybody would just be staring at Bernie while he's telling the story. Everybody would be just completely drawn in and entranced by whatever he's saying. I really like this. You wouldn't necessarily think that it would work to have a song that has this real gentle nature and emotion to it, to have so much going on with the bass guitar, but it really works. Somehow they make it work. And I don't know if it's because the bass isn't harsh. It's a pretty mellow, relaxed tone. It's not distorted. It's not aggressive or anything like that, but it's really wandering. It's doing a lot of stuff that seems like it counteracts the rest of the song, but it actually fits in quite well. I really like the sound of it. And of course, these ahs from Bernie are just fantastic. This is a really, really good song. This is really an interesting change for the song. I wasn't sure if it was going to get heavy or if it was just going to stay in that same mood, but it's a great thing, but the transition's kind of abrupt. You know, I've talked about how good this band is at doing transitions, and lately it seems like they're really just more changing parts from one to another. They're not doing those 1 or 2 measure transitions like they used to at this point. But it's a cool riff. It's really interesting, very different from the kind of stuff that you would normally hear, which again just kind of piques my interest as a listener. And then, everybody else kicking in. The drums are not as loud on this song as they have been on previous songs. So they blend in a little bit more. I could probably use just a little bit more bass drum, I think, in this one to give it a little bit more punch. But other than that, it sounds really good. This is a really interesting thing, too, that I hear a second guitar coming in at some point. And it almost reminds me of the way Boston used to sound in the old days, in the 70s. Just the way that the guitars sound together just remind me of that for some reason. But it's really cool. It's got some good energy to it. It's very a curious thing to see where it's going to go from here.
Like a secret that the heart makes. Must be careful what I wish for. Could this dream last forever until the end of time? With a vision of perfection in this world of ecstasy. Need the strength so I can hold on. Don't wanna die before I wake up.
There's a really good balance of organ and guitar here. And what I hear too is we're back to Russell playing on the crashes, but it's so quiet. It's so in the background. You feel it a lot more than you hear it. It's not that crispy hi-hat sound. Even if a hi-hat is mostly open, you're still hearing a little bit crispy hit with that. But here, when you're riding on the crash cymbal, you don't get that attack as much as you do the effect of the reverberation of the crash. So it's really subtle, though. It's like, for normally I'm like, it's a little bit too loud in the mix. I think this is actually just slightly too quiet. I think you could bring it up like maybe a half a decibel and it would have a little more presence in the mix, but it actually is nice that you can hear it and feel it without it encroaching on everything else. I think this is a much better mix as far as the drums go. That was cool. I love that little bridge that Mick put in between the two sections there. That was really nice, but it's really powerful. The guitars coming in and covering the emotion that we've gotten from the vocals. Very well done. It doesn't have to be dynamic. It doesn't have to be all over the place. Sometimes it just needs to fit. And this is definitely a case where Mick played it the most basic route of just holding on to what the vocals were doing. But I really think that works for this song. I think the emotion and stuff is maybe would not have worked with a regular guitar solo. It may have, but I like that he didn't do anything flashy here. I think it fits the song better.
I had a dream at daybreak. You came and touched my soul. The deeper sense of wonder is knowing how to lose control. We left the ground together, so easy for us to fly, leaving a trail of diamonds that was seen for miles and miles. So the dream that moved so slowly was a dream within a dream. Then she turned to me so holy, and she kissed me with a smile.
What a great build that was, starting with Trevor increasing his speed on the bass and then going from there. Beautiful fill from Russell at the end of that. Such masterfully created music. I love this. feels like it's such a dark riff, doesn't it? It feels slightly ominous, slightly yearning, maybe. I'm not sure what I'm hearing in the vocals. I'm getting an emotion, but I can't quite pinpoint what it is at the moment. But it definitely feels maybe brooding. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it definitely is not, it's not happy. That's for sure. I also noticed that Russell has switched to the ride cymbal, but again, it's very subtle in the mix. I can just kind of hear the clang of the bell, which is weird because usually that cuts through pretty well. So they've lowered that quite a bit for this song, but the blend of guitar and organ and bass and vocals is just phenomenal. And then again, like I said, I really could use a little bit more kick drum, maybe a little bit more of the ride through this part, just because I think that dynamic is slightly lost, but more the punch of the kick. I think if I could only have one thing, it would be a little bit more punch in the kick, maybe just a little louder, because I think the punch is there. But that blend of the rest of the instruments with the vocals, it's just so signature of this band. And one of the things I love about them so much is the way that they blend all that together. It's just amazing. Well, I let that play a little bit longer than I normally would have because I really just wanted to sit with the emotion of the song. And I've come to realize that it reminds me a little bit of the ending of July Morning, which it's got a lot of stuff going on. There's the solo and everything, but at the same point, it just has a little bit of a dark feel overall to it. And I think that kind of matches this one pretty well. It's a good ending. It's a great part of the song. It really is a great progression from the beginning of the song to where it ends. The whole thing is just amazing. I think it's brilliant writing, brilliant performances, not anything over the top, not anything that takes me out of the song by any means. I'm really in it the whole time. And that's so important if you're going to do a piece that has this kind of emotion to it. You don't ever want to have the listener look outside of the song at any point. You grip them in the beginning and you keep them the whole time. And this is a song that definitely does that for me. It's so well done. I love that it ends fading out on the drums. That's really cool, kind of unexpected. I'm pretty sure I heard an extra guitar track creep in towards the end, just playing a little bit of accents in there. And then Phil was getting a little bit louder towards the end too, which was helping to bring out the intensity of the whole thing. Just a beautifully crafted piece of music. I absolutely loved it. I hope you guys did too. It's a great song, definitely deserves some recognition. So that's what today's show is all about. Well, I hope that you guys had a good time on our Monday, whether you're starting your day, whether it's in the middle or you're ending it with the podcast, whatever you're doing. I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see you back tomorrow for another song from Into the Wild. Cheers. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show, and thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!